How's it going, everyone? Today we are going over the Fight for Freedom update. We are being introduced to Season 14, some fixes, a couple of quality of life updates. Just went live today, August 22nd. We'll go over some of the highlights, some of the things that were included. I'll give some perspective from, let's say, someone who's been in the game since the beta. If you're newer to these videos, I'll be sure to post the link so you're not missing out on any of these notes. I may skim over some, but I'll do my best to dive in, expand on some of these updates, and see what it means for both new players and veterans alike. We're kicking off with the update highlights. We have some perk changes and additions. Now, a lot of this is going to be geared towards the newer players, but saying we've made adjustments to the level requirements for various existing perk cards to make them more accessible for lower level characters, and added the ability to open multiple perk card packs at once. So it's a little bit of, let's say, both categories. Obviously, newer players are going to be able to access perk cards way sooner. I feel like a lot of the newer players don't even realize that you have to be basically at least level 50 to see all the perk cards. I think level 50 is when you get your last perk card. Some of that might be actually a little different now with this perk, or I should say with this update affecting perks. But the ability to open up multiple perk cards at once, yeah, for those veterans who have hundreds stacked up, well, we can open them up finally, right? There are some new perks as well. Two new perks, Arms Keeper and Stable Tools. Arms Keeper is going to reduce the weight of rifles, which makes sense because we have multiple perks to reduce, let's say, armor weight, specific weapons weight, let's say like heavy armor. I think even pistols. I'm pretty sure pistol has, I'm not sure if it's packing lightly or I forget exactly the perk, but definitely makes sense. I'm not sure if they'll continue to expand on those. Who knows? Maybe down the road bows will weigh less, or some other weapons that don't have that yet. Stable Tools, automatic melee weapons are now have a durability bonus of 10, 25, and 40% for each respective rank. And that's going to be your drills, your auto axes, chainsaws, things of that nature. They do normally break pretty quick. I prefer the auto axe, at least my auto axe, over a chainsaw, and I understand between both of those they can break pretty quick. I'm actually more interested in finding the third role as, let's say, weapon durability, taking it longer to break down, as opposed to dedicating a perk card to it, but definitely useful. Some utility perks thrown our way. Now we have Season 14, the Fight for Freedom. United we stand, marching towards America's bright future. This patriotic season includes new camp items, armor skins, and more. And I've seen a preview of a few of them. I'm pretty excited. I haven't gone through and seen every single rank all the way up to 100, but I will mention this season we're going to try to fly through this. Let's say the scoreboard and claim 100 ranks as soon as possible, because we have Starfield right around the corner and we cannot wait to jump into that. The Season 14 is including a few different things: a new ally, a presidential power armor skin, the Oval Office, and the Auto Miner Collectron is just a few of the things we're highlighting. We've been getting, let's say, new allies just about every season, and then this season we're getting Grandma Junko. She's on a mission to find her grandchildren, she thinks. While her memory isn't what it used to be, she can still cook up a good old-fashioned home-cooked meal for you, so I'm thinking that's going to be some sort of bonus, some sort of buff, if you maybe interact with her and she's like, hey, do you want to, I don't know, do you want a quick sandwich before you go? That probably will provide some bonus while you're exploring. We'll check that out. The presidential power armor skins. It says, who needs Secret Service when you have power armor? If I remember correctly, this might be almost like the astronaut looking themed one. I have to double check. I saw a few previews of some of the scoreboard items they're able to claim, but me personally, I like to surprise myself and collect all the ranks all at once and minimally look ahead to see what there is to unlock. And then when I stumble upon people's camps, I'm always surprised, like, oh, I guess this is something I have to look forward to claim. And speaking of claiming things, we also have the Oval Office. Create your own base of operations with the Oval Office rug and wallpaper. There's a few things that I noticed. They also have, like, I want to say, some sort of like presidential desk, a wine rack. I saw a few things, so I am kind of interested to see how we can incorporate that into our camps. We also have the addition of the Autominer Collectron. It'll collect ores. So for those that may be, I don't know, I guess lead is probably going to be the most sought after thing if it collects it. But different ores that you might not be able to find readily, or even like gold, things of that nature. So that you can maybe use those resources for various things you need to build, or maybe even serums. We'll see. We have the upcoming birthday event. Well, Fallout 76 turns 5 years old this November 14th, and they're going to have some party challenges. We just had the Squirrel Scout challenge, whatever it was called. And now we're looking forward to the birthday party challenges. I'm a big fan of that. I'm pretty sure they learned that the best way to set up challenges of this nature would be to have a longer time frame that you're able to complete them all, as opposed to try to complete this many the first week, the second week, the third week, and then if you miss a day or two, you might miss out on challenges. So I'm going to assume it's going to be similar, but we have to look forward to that November 7th to the 21st. So we're a little bit further out on that one, but still looking forward to that. For the design changes and improvements, in terms of things that are being balanced, a lot of encounters have been, let's say, combed over and modified. We'll go through some of these and see exactly what that means when we jump into the game. Saying we reduced enemy difficulty and added more healing items and ammo to Summersville and Morgantown Airport. I'm thinking that's more catered towards newer players, but I do frequent Morgantown Airport quite often, whether there's Scorch challenges, or even if I'm going to go do it. Oh god, the cargo mission thing that's there at the airport, that for some reason, collision course? I completely forgot what that was. Collision course for its pre-war money and other goodies that you can get from there. Yeah, there's a few things that I might personally visit, but it says reduced enemy difficulty and added more healing items. So I don't know necessarily what that means. Like, just when you're browsing, I guess, homes and different containers, you might come across more goodies, more aid, more food maybe. We'll see. We reduced the frequency of NPC attacks on player camps. We were just talking about this recently in the stream, where me personally, when I go to my camp, there's basically 3, maybe even 4 dogs that'll spawn at the camp and start attacking it and break things down before I'm even home, especially when people are visiting and, let's say, using the vendor or whatever. And I was wondering, why is it that when you place your camp, it's almost like things spawn at that location more often instead of less often? And like, why should you have to defend your stuff so heavily when, you know, this game over time becomes less and less about survival? But I digress. The reduced frequency is definitely going to be looked forward to. The only issue is I've had some recent challenges that basically are like kill canines, however many, let's say 3, 4, 5, and that's actually very convenient when they're right outside my front door. So now, who knows, maybe I'm going to be complaining that I missed the way it used to be. We'll see. Another encounter, legendary creatures no longer mutate at 50% health to have health regeneration, but instead have 60% increased health. I feel like this is going to be an interesting one, mostly because whether you are, let's say, solo grinding something like West Tech or out in Appalachia, or you're doing something like a Scorch Beast Queen event and Encrypted, anything that might have, let's say, an enemy that might have a little extra health, sometimes when you're fighting, you might notice that the health kind of rubber bands. I'm pretty sure that when you're attacking certain creatures, if it's server lag or your own personal lag, you might not actually be doing the full damage. There might just be some sort of window where you're actually just losing rounds and ammunition kind of deal, as opposed to doing health. So you're probably doing even more damage than what they're switching it to. It's saying they have 60% increased health, as opposed to having the additional 50% health. We're only experiencing a 10% raw, let's say, health increase, but again, if we were lagging before, maybe we're doing actually more and this should be easier. I just think it makes sense too. The last update that we had made bullets much more receptive, and I feel like a lot of people noticed that going into the game. It seemed like your VATS shots were linking up a lot more. They felt a little bit more accurate. Almost felt like you were doing more damage. So now I want to say that update mixed with this one, we'll see exactly what that means, but this feels like the servers and the game are actually being like more responsive to your shots as opposed to trying to calculate what you're doing, what everybody else is doing. So this is a good thing. Although I feel like people are going to read it like, oh, it's harder now than it used to be. Not necessarily. Some more encounters. We've made various changes to health, resistances, and weapon damage for the following creatures. Might as well be all of them. I'll make sure the link is up there if you want to see exactly which ones. It almost would have been easier for them to tell us what they didn't make changes to, but let's just assume just about everything. And then for resistances, protection from acid, electricity, and radiation have been corrected to more accurately target the specific type of damage dealt. We'll see how that kind of impacts us. The server just went live, I want to say a few hours ago. I haven't had a chance personally to jump in, and I haven't seen others jumping in, so I'm not too sure if I'm going to be jumping into a more difficult Appalachia, or at certain parts maybe an easier Appalachia, but we'll have to jump into 76 and see that. Moving on to events, we got Meat Week. We've added a host of new rewards to Meat Week and Graham's vendor pool. These rewards include new camp decor, plushies, and more. So when Meat Week starts, we'll have the, I don't know, is it like the 3 Little Pigs plushies and maybe something else? I saw some previews of that. Ever since the last update, we also had access to his, what is it, colorful suitcases, I want to say the park benches, things of that nature. I'm not sure if there was other stuff that he had incorporated, but people from the community actually started collecting those last season. We're able to flip some of those, and now when we go to Meat Week, he's probably going to have those infinitely, so you can just trade them, grab what you need, and move on. And this time around, I'm pretty sure Meat Week is only 1 week long, but we'll confirm that. Some more changes. In general, we got free cam. You can now use free cam while in photo mode. That's awesome too, because that's going to give us even that much more accessibility to taking aerial shots of camps and other, maybe if you're trying to capture an event or a location that you and other friends are hanging out. Much better to capture the moment that much further back. Crafting, fixed an issue with loose mods not applying in default modification view. And quests, invisible tires. Let's see. Invisible tires now points to Mama Dolce's instead of Vault 76 to find liberators. I don't actually know what that is. Invisible ties. I feel like that's a mission that I've been putting off for the past 5 years. We'll do it eventually, I promise. In terms of items, build mode. We've renamed over 600 camp items for greater clarity while building. I just hope that one of the future updates in terms of quality of life, they make it where we can categorize stuff and a search function. I feel like both of those, if they can't be done at the same time simultaneously, one update, make it where you can search for stuff, because every update we get more and more atomic shop goodies, more camp things from the scoreboard, and it's just that much harder to find stuff. I do like that I forget how many updates back, they added the new tab, so when you actually get something new, you're able to go and directly pinpoint what you just unlocked. Huge bonus, but we'll see how we can improve on that. The donation box. I have kind of mixed feelings, but this one, the outside of Vault 76 will now have a donation box, and it's saying that you can leave presents for new players. We've got into this conversation in the community where even newer players of 76, it doesn't have to be just veterans of 76, but a huge range of players will go visit the vault, basically just wait for new players to come out, or just drop some stuff off if they see somebody inside and then go on about their way. But a great way to welcome people into Appalachia by hooking them up with stuff. And then it doesn't even have to be just at Vault 76. White Spring Station, other locations are quite frequent when it comes to seeing people helping out a new player. And there's definitely been times where I've played on a very low level character, people kind of just come up to me, they might try to get my attention, I turn around and they're dropping stuff for me. So there's a lot of good, genuine people out there that are trying to hook up, let's say, newer players, and I feel like the overall idea was kind of captured in an interesting way. I'm going to call this the give a penny, take a penny box. It's a good thought, and I like the logic behind it. My only worry is if there's no If there's no limit from somebody taking from it, if there's no level limit, and mind you, a lot of these things can be bypassed, so even if they put something on, I'm sure somebody else, if they really wanted to, they could bypass it. I just worry that trolls are going to use this more so to line their pockets instead of, you know, letting some noobs get some stuff. I don't expect a ton of good things in there. I'm pretty sure nobody's out there just dropping like a dozen god roll fixers, but still, the point is you're trying to help people out and you want to make sure it goes to the people that it's meant for and not just some randy that's like, hey, I'm out of stims, let me go grab them, you know? So keep that in mind. Plans. Players now have more default recipes for more options while building their first camp. So that's good too, because I feel like a lot of people might get into the game for the building aspect and might feel like they hit a wall if there's not a whole lot of things that they've unlocked just yet. And then they're looking at the atomic shop like, okay, well, maybe it's going to take me a while to unlock some of this stuff, or I have to buy stuff. So now, earlier on, if you're introduced to more things, that's great. Kind of spark that creativity, encourage people to unlock more stuff over time. And then power armor, we added level 10 version of T45 and Raider power armor. So for those lower levels that wanted access to that, well, there you go. Alright, so the world had a couple of changes. The Gilman Lumber Mill, adjustments to the Gilman Lumber Mill location. No idea what that means. Awesome. And then we have Vault 76 had a couple. Replaced the Liberator bots outside of 76 with ghouls. They might have just been doing too much energy damage and just sniping new players going down the steps. What is that? To the west of Vault 76? And I guess ghouls make more sense. I'm not entirely sure why the Liberator bots are chilling just kind of outside there, but new players will no longer receive unnamed radio station with information on Nuka World on tour upon leaving the vault. So that makes sense too, right? Progress a little bit before they introduce you to Nuka World. Kind of let people explore the forest and the surrounding regions. Some workbench changes. All workbench listings now use alphabetical sorting, and item names are standardized across all lists. The Show Unlockable button now shows recipes you can learn through a plan, scrapping, or can purchase in the atomic shop. So Show Unlockable now shows you that. Okay, good, good. 1-star legendary mods are also no longer a thing when it comes to the workbench. You can only make 2 and 3 stars, I guess, the way I'm reading it. Saying 1-star legendary mods no longer show up under random legendary mods. 2 and 3-star mods now display correctly under current mods when inspecting an item. I gotta double check that. I've had some criticism that with the recent update giving more, air quotes here, clarity on what weapons do. I kind of like the old naming system, the old nomenclature for all of the weapons and faster fire rate, faster swing speed, and instead of how it is now. Ironically, I feel like we still use the abbreviations for the old system. So I'm very curious to see how else they kind of change legendary mods, if they refine that any further. But I digress. And then it says improved the learned mod counter. Curious to see what that means, so I gotta jump in to see. UI, speaking of things that you'll be noticing, Daily Ops players will no longer receive Daily Ops notifications until level 50. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that means like when you jump into a world, it says something like Daily Ops teams are active, go join them or something like that. Maybe that's not going to encourage somebody under 50 to go. I feel like people will still be able to have the opportunity to show up, which is good. I kind of want to compare this to, let's say, Project Paradise. Even if Project Paradise in previous updates got easier over time, that's an event that I'm pretty sure when you go there, when you're at the actual location and you're looking at the elevator, I think it says still suggested level 50. I like the idea of actually putting level caps, or not even level caps, but requirements on certain things to encourage people to reach that level and then explore certain things, as opposed to being thrown in and then if you're getting bombarded, because even if the levels are being scaled, it's still just overwhelming, something like that. I feel like these abilities to, I don't know, I'm not going to say don't show a new level. Let me phrase that. When Project Paradise shows up, I'm not saying don't show the low level or the newer player the notification. Maybe tweak that too. just to say like, hey, suggested this, you've been warned. Even if it says it in a quick loading screen or something like that, I feel like new players are very easy to miss that. And then again, having that same logic of daily ops, you might have a notification. A person might see that, they might be like, hey, what's that? They go join it, they don't know what's going on, maybe it's newer to them. So again, kind of funneling people into content I think is also important. And like I said, I wouldn't mind requirements. I'm not going to say you can't join daily ops until 50, but the idea of like maybe you have to almost sign something like a terms of service. It's like, are you sure you want to join this? And you click yes. And it's like, are you really sure? Did you read the sentence above? And you hit yes again, and then you go into daily ops or Project Paradise or something like that. I don't know. Fanfare had some updates. We reduced the number of pop-ups that appear when leaving Vault 76 for the first time. And perks. We've added a new filter when viewing perk cards. Gotta check that out. Once you have a ton of perk cards, a filter I feel like would be definitely useful. Bug fixes and improvements. We have a few of these. I'm not going to go through every single one. I'll try to focus on more so the main ones. But we have a few between art animation, camp and shelter. We'll mention the challenges. I know a few of these challenges have impacted people in our community. Dailies, Blood Eagle ghouls now count towards the Kill Blood Eagles daily challenge. Fix various challenges to defeat an enemy with a specific weapon that would progress when defeating an enemy with a throwable weapon instead. Didn't know about that one. Weapons that have been modded to deal fire damage now correctly count towards the deal fire damage challenge. So the first one and the second one mentioning here, I personally run into, and I know a few other people. I don't know if you can use the pistol, the Crusader pistol, forgot that name for a second. I don't know if you can use the Crusader pistol to deal fire damage for that challenge. I know that challenge has popped up and I've tested it and didn't get credit. And I feel like on and off, shish kebabs sometimes work, sometimes don't. That's also in the past impacted how friendly fire works, and if you don't know what friendly fire is, the perk that allows you to heal friendly NPCs, other things like that. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that and see if that actually works now. I'll take out the Crusader pistol, maybe a shish kebab. In terms of daily ops, we have the contextual ammo. Fusion cells now correctly receive contextual ammo drop. I don't remember running a daily ops with like a Tesla or something and not getting fusion cells. I can't recall now, but apparently that was an issue. Rewards. And this is a big one. Plans that have not been learned by the player now have priority in dropping as a reward over plans that a player has already learned. We gotta do some daily ops ASAP just because I am tired of getting Vault 94 stash boxes and all these other things when I know there's multiple items that I still need. I will mention, however, I've been actually making a pretty good penny, or I should say I've been making some pretty good caps when it comes to daily ops rewards. I can't remember if it's both of these, Intergalactic handmade skin and the Hot Rod handmade skin, but for a while, this whole last season, I basically got those skins, I repainted some handmaids, I threw them in my vendor for sale, and people were scooping them up. And I basically used that as a way to gauge who's interested in them, who doesn't have them unlocked, and it seemed like a good amount of people didn't unlock them yet. Normally I would message them after and be like, hey, if you want any more, you know, you don't have to pay, I'll get you what you need. But in terms of daily ops now actually giving the rewards people are going to be looking for, that'll make things less rare. And I'm very curious to see if the Hot Rod and Intergalactic paints for the handmade are still tradable. They were last season. Have to double check that. Enemies. Fixed an issue preventing players from VATS targeting extra large creatures at the correct distance. I feel like I have that issue with the Behemoth at Abandoned Bogtown. I've had that issue where I've like targeted it, there's nothing in the way, and it stops targeting. I'm not sure if that's exactly the same thing, but more than likely. Addressed an issue that allowed combat groups to persist over long distances. Combat groups? I don't know. I actually don't know what that means. Addressed an issue that allowed combat groups to persist over long distances. So the groups is the word that confuses me. If we take out the word groups and just say allowed combat to persist over long distances, That might be something like, let's say one of the possible factors that was preventing us from fast traveling. Maybe when you're trying to fast travel, even though you're so far from an enemy, it's supposed to terminate the combat, but it still remains. And even though you're not technically in combat, they think you are, so it prevents you from fast traveling. Maybe. I'm just speculating, thinking that's what it means, but I'll need to double check. The Imposter Sheepsquatch. Fix an issue causing the Imposter Sheepsquatch area effect. Attacks dealing damage to players who were not within its range. Yeah, so we run encrypted once, twice, a stream throughout the week, multiple times. Now, I know personally there's times that the encrypted is nowhere near me, but as soon as it just starts lasering somebody, even if the line of sight is broken, I thought it was a fire damage issue. I was pretty sure that just it did fire damage in an area of effect or something, but this past season it was on and off spicy. It was sometimes the Sheepsquatch was just wrecking you as soon as it popped up. Other times it wasn't as bad, so we'll run some more encrypted this week and see how much easier or what exactly that means. But we'll see. The environment. Hazards fix, let's say for hazards, fix the location of toxic water that was not producing radiation damage. No idea. Interiors, nuke effects will no longer appear indoors. Okay, I don't know what locations we're having that, but noted. There's a few things in terms of events and expeditions, people getting stuck, or issues with the Pip-Boy, people looting stuff, and a few more. I'm going to skim over these, but again, patch notes, the link for them will be in the description of the video, so check them out. I will mention as well, let me see, destroying the Vimnada machine now correctly advances the event in a timely manner. That was one of the things that I read, and I was like, I normally don't find the Vimnada at spin the wheel, mostly because I'm just distracted doing other things, but there was a few things that I'm like, okay, if it makes it easier, that's that much better. Gameplay, this is going to be a real big one. We're going to have to get a timer because I don't want to hold my breath, but I'm going to, let's say, be pleasantly surprised when we're in Appalachia and everything's nice and smooth and we're able to fast travel. Saying, fix an issue that could sometimes prevent players from fast traveling. And fix an instance where players are shown incorrect fast travel information when hovering over map markers. I don't know what the second one means. What could possibly be incorrect? How much it costs for you to fast travel? Honestly, I don't know. But in terms of fast travel supposedly being fixed, for these past almost 5 years, my biggest complaint of the game has been fast traveling. Mostly because my patience for it over time dwindled away, and it just kind of drove me up a wall. What we used to do, and I say used to as past tense because as of today we shouldn't have to anymore, but anytime I would try to fast travel, if I'm actively in combat, it would be like a cheat code. Pause the game, hit up on the D-pad, hit I think A twice to just teleport straight into daily ops. If you learn the muscle memory for whatever the cheat code is for, you know, to do that, you just teleport right in there and then teleport straight over somewhere else. That's great if you're running, let's say, you know, next-gen consoles on PC with a good setup where you're able to load pretty quickly. If you're not able to load pretty quickly, that might actually hurt you. But there's times that I tried fast traveling. After it tells me I can't fast travel once for no apparent reason, no enemies in the area, I just went straight to daily ops and then used that as a midpoint. If we still have that issue, I'll continue to do it, but I'm going to talk about that in past tense, even though it was just yesterday that we utilized daily ops as a midpoint. Let's rejoice when we're able to go all across the map. Onto items. For aid, it says Rad Scorpion Omelet and Tasty Rad Scorpion Omelets now cure Formula P. I don't think I understand what that means, but I'm going to move on and revisit that later. Armor. The Berserker legendary effect is now correctly giving a damage boost when no resistances are active. The Unyielding legendary effect, once again, provides additional bonuses when low. Was Unyielding broken? Hold on. Was unyielding broken for a while and I didn't know this? Armor mods. The girded armor mod will no longer disappear from the player's recipe list when replaced by another mod. Plans. Weapons and armor the player knows the plan to craft can now once again drop as legendary items after defeating a legendary enemy. So I guess if, I don't know, if there's a certain enemy that drops as legendary items after defeating a legendary enemy. I'm kind of confused on this. So let's use the Gulper Smacker. Weapons and armor plans that you know. If you learn a Gulper Smacker, after you defeat a legendary enemy, it'll then once again drop a Gulper Smacker. Were they not dropping before when they should have? I guess that's what was going on. Plans. Players that learn the domestic kitchen tables plan can once again build them. I heard somebody mention that, but I actually didn't even notice. That's not something I guess I commonly build in my camps, but anything that's missing, you know, the quicker they can get back into the game, the better. There's a few more things before we're done with the patch notes today. We'll wrap it up shortly. Before we do, let's make sure we go over some perks and a few other things. In terms of perks, for armor, Brotherhood Recon and Metal Armor chest pieces, Ultralight build now require the Armorer perk. So just making it a little bit more difficult and more aligned with the difficulty of the game, the progression of the game. Cannibal, the Carnivore mutation now works with the Cannibal perk. That's funny, I guess you weren't getting credit for that before. Grenadier, the Grenadier perk now applies to Gauss weapons. So now you'll get even that much more range with the default explosive damage on that. Good with Salt, the description now accurately states the effects of the Refrigerator Backpack mod do not stack with the Good with Salt perk. Noted. Gun Fu, we've significantly increased the damage bonus with Gun Fu on all ranks. I have to double check that. I'm pretty sure it was just 10, 20, 30. So any extra DPS, that'll be definitely useful. I personally use only Gun Fu rank 1. I didn't think it was really all that worth it trying to rank it up further, considering a lot of times I might kill one target, it swaps to the next one, I might get a few rounds in, and then I run out of AP. So I didn't really feel like it was worth spending extra perk points into that. We got Ninja. The Ninja perk now accurately states its effects. Sneak attacks with melee weapons do an additional 30, 60, 90 sneak attack damage. So Ninja's getting its little updates there. And taking one for the team, fixed an edge case in which taking one for the team would not apply correctly when multiple party members are hit at the same time. I'm not too familiar with that perk. I'm actually going to have to go see what that means. Power Armor, Excavator, Uranium Deposits now correctly grant a +3 yield when harvesting. We have some mods too. And a few things here. Pneumatic mod. Description changed to reduce incoming stagger by 25% from reduce incoming stagger. Tesla bracers now display their added damage in the Pip-Boy correctly. The blood cleansing mod for Power Armor Torso now correctly reduces the chance of becoming addicted to chems. And one more legendary Power Armor related thing. Players will no longer receive legendary Power Armor rewards from events and creatures until level 20. So imagine being like level 10 and you just got a bunch of Power Armor pieces back to back. You don't have the means of reducing weight. You don't have an established camp and you're like, well, I guess I gotta drop these things or just sift through item management, inventory management, but that's good. Again, a lot of updates seem to be catered more towards the newer player. I'll say the new game, the mid-game playthrough playstyle. But a lot of this will make it easier and I would say more inviting for newer players. So we'll see if anything else is going to entice somebody jumping into the game. Stability. Buried Treasure fixed a crash that could occur during the Buried Treasure questline. Noted. UI. Events. When viewing the eviction notice event from the map, the quest icon will no longer obscure some of the description text. Didn't know that, okay. How about we change it to, instead of UI, just a change for eviction notice? Eviction notice will no longer change the countdown timer I want to say when you spawn, and don't quote me on this, pretty sure when you spawn an eviction notice for immediately after it spawns, I think you have 4 or 5 minutes to walk into the area to see what's going on. And then as soon as you walk into the area, I think you only have like 2 minutes to then go repair the rad scrubber to start the event. How about we make it where eviction notice won't start until like a certain amount of people show up? And how about that? And then we make it where rad rumble, same thing. It won't start until a certain amount of people show up. Because I don't know how many times I've gone to a rad rumble and Randy's over there talking to Marion. We start a sheep squatch. There's somebody in there pushing buttons for my swiped cards, things of that nature. We get into these conversations with the community, and there's just little things that they can easily improve and would make it better for the general, let's say, gaming population there. But just little things. When I see something like this, I'm like, why did we focus on that and not other things? But it's okay. In due time, it's on the list. They'll get to it eventually. At least that's what I've been told. So for dynamic names, applying mods to the military fatigues now update their name with corrected prefix. Applying the Ogwa shell backpack skin to a backpack now correctly changes its name. Some fanfare, fix an issue where several non-legendary descriptions appeared in the UI when picking up legendary power armor. Okay. And there's a few more things here. So again, I'm not going to go over all of them, but be sure to go over them and check out the patch notes, the update notes that'll be provided. And then wrapping up here with weapons. We've adjusted the way plasma gun mods deal physical and energy damage to be more in line with each other. The result is a slight boost in physical damage and a slight decrease in energy damage. Laser guns. The sniper rifle barrel for the laser guns now correctly uses a charging fire mode. Legendary effects. The basher, 50% VATS chance, and nocturnal legendary effects are now working correctly. I didn't notice my plus 50 VATS being less accurate. That's good. Basher, I don't use Basher. I understand Basher is great for miniguns that have, what is it, the shredding mod, something like that. And then Nocturnal, I personally am not using Nocturnal, so don't know. Maybe it just wasn't working at all. Melee, players can no longer attack with automatic melee weapons and sprint at the same time in third person. I didn't know that was a thing. I have regrets now. I should have tried doing that once before they patched it, right? And then just a few more here. Mods, the prime capacitor and prime receiver mods for the plasma gun, enclave plasma gun, plasma caster, and Gatling plasma no longer incorrectly deal additional energy damage above the amount also added to physical damage. So that is being corrected. The issue is people are going to think it got nerfed, but apparently it was doing more than it should have, so keep that in mind. Power attacks, fix an issue causing melee power attacks to sometimes not register as a power attack. Salvage the Assaultron head. The fire mode for the Salvage the Assaultron head now correctly states it has a charging fire mode. And last but not least, shotguns. Gauss shotguns obtained prior to Once in a Blue Moon update now adhere to the balance changes. That is awesome. Do you know what that means? And that's actually a very interesting one to leave for last, and I didn't read it until now with you guys. That basically means they'll start making sure there's no legacies. Because if Gauss shotguns were just updated, or had updates, after the Once in a Blue Moon, you know, like this is the point where we know they'll be retroactively fixing things. Let's say the Stalker's melee weapons, just a random legacy example. They removed the legacy, or sorry, they removed the affix, the Stalkers on them, and they kept them in the game. There's other legacies that are still in the game, but I just want to use that as an example. It would have been very easy to, well, I guess that's deleting, so maybe that's not a good example, but just my kind of thought process of they changed something, and instead of just being like, okay, we changed something from here on out, and anything that happened before stays and gets grandfathered in, I think this is a more proactive approach, and if they're doing these little balances here and there, it's actually going to be needed. Going back to the last update that we just had, Once in a Blue Moon and all that, considering damage seemed to be, after that update, like much higher than it was before, and it felt like shots were actually registering and it wasn't taking as many shots to kill something. So that's a great thing, but you're not getting buffed per se. It's just the game is working more so as intended. And now with, let's say, legendary enemies having a full health bar instead of a half regen and then go back again, even though that's a very like non-Fallout thing to do. Anybody that's coming from like, let's say, Fallout 4 is like, wait, they don't heal, they have a bigger health bar, what's this? So interesting things to keep in mind. I'm pretty happy to see the direction. If I'm picking up the underlying text, if you will, if some of the, I'm reading between the lines here, if I can pick up on some of those, it seems like they're going in a good direction. Myself, someone who's a veteran of the game, and I know other people from the community would agree, it seems like a lot of things do cater towards the newer players, people that are in kind of the mid-game experience, and we like to know when more veteran content's going to be coming out. But I will be checking this out with the community. We'll have the link in the description for where you can catch our streams on Twitch and much, much more. I do look forward to starting Season 14, Fight for Freedom, as soon as possible. So I will catch you guys in Appalachia soon. Take it easy, everybody.